Just want to literally send a message to every single one of you that follows me, supports me, whatever, checks in on me. I love showing as much love and appreciation in return to everyone I can. The world needs more of it. If someone is actually like suffering a problem or they want to actually work towards their fitness goals, they're better off looking at the insides first rather than the outside appearance. Just go check in on someone. Just say, hey, have a good day. It's simple. It'll go a long way, guys.
What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode. Today is going to be a rather big treat. I have my good friend, Sharon Orval, here with us from Australia. She's a CEO of an amazing company that helps people with their health and wellness. But today's episode is going to be a little different, guys. We had a mutual friend pass away last month, Jaxon Tippet, fitness influencer. And a lot of people that know Sharon and I know how much Jaxon meant, not just to the people in his lives, but to her and I specifically. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shawn, and thank you so much for having me on the Determined Society.
Oh, man, it's a long time coming, but I'm so happy you're here. You're like all the way over there in Australia, right? And you're in the future. It's like, I'm looking for your time machine.
If you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, I can help you out. Okay.
Let me know. Like let me know what's going to go on tomorrow so I can just have a little bit of an idea. Right.
Yeah.
But, like I mentioned in the intro, it's going to be a different show today. Right. But I think it's needed because for me, Jaxon was one of the, big influencers, or I don't really look at him. I didn't look at him as that once I got to know him, but he came around and I was like, this big dude with all this influence gives a shit about me and says he's a fan and loves my content. I'm like, is this guy serious? It was just so humbling and he was just so kind and, seriously a tragedy. But I don't want this to be a sad show because he wouldn't want that, right? He would not want that. He wants us to celebrate him the way he was, which is just an exceptional human being. But what did Jaxon mean to you?
Well, Jaxon meant a lot to me. I think Jaxon and I connected. Well, he actually connected with me. And I believe 100% that the main reason that he did that was because he really saw in me things that he knew that him and his mum connected through. And he knew that I'd had some similar struggles with my son. So he knew I understood what he'd been through and where he was now. And he could also understand the same thing from my point of view, through the eyes of mum. So it was one of those things that we just felt like we got each other right from the beginning, and we could have conversations that would be hard for some people perhaps to understand.
Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy thing, right? He had a way of connecting people, right? Like we're here because of him. Like me and you are friends because he came on your show and somehow you and I ended up connecting over one of your podcast clips. And it's just
exactly.
He was a vessel for that, didn't you tell me that you and his mom like kind of grew up together, or you had a previous connection with her and he helped you guys reconnect?
Yes, it's actually quite crazy, Shawn, because we didn't realize when I first met Jaxon, and I'd known him, I think, for a couple of years before we realized. And one day he messaged me and he said, Sharon, my mum knows you. And we actually were friends back, when we were 17 years old in our little country town in country Victoria. And obviously I left there quite young. I was 23 when I moved to Melbourne, and all of my friends from back then got married. I didn't know who they married, so I didn't realise what her surname or her new surname was. And it turns out, yes, I knew her and her sister very well back in the day. So amazing
wild.
how I believe God connects us with people and reconnects us with people for a reason.
Sure.
And
Sure.
So that was great to have that connection.
It's unbelievable. Just like, the human connection you know, you can just meet somebody like you met Jaxson, and then all of a sudden you're reconnected to your past and everything comes full circle. It just kind of is like, okay, dude, I see what you're doing up there. You know, you're bringing people back into your lives, and you know, you obviously mean a lot to that family. I mean, you were you spoke at his services, and it was a beautiful speech, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful speech.
Thank you, Shawn. I honestly wanted to just pay tribute to Jaxson, obviously, because I had so many conversations with him. I did know what was very important to him, or the most important things to him that he was trying to change about the world, things that he'd learned, lessons that he'd learned, and things that he was trying to put out there. So for me, it was about trying to give a message from him and from his heart on the day that would really mean something to him and to his family and friends. So I was very, very honoured that his beautiful mum, Sheree, asked me. So, yeah.
And I was honored. I'm watching the service. I'm streaming it. And I'm sitting there just, I mean, I wish I could really be there. And you get up there, and one of the first things you say is my name. Like, it was mind-blowing to me that I was even considered in honoring him there when I wasn't even presently there. So thank you for that. It meant a lot, you know, from a standpoint of like, you know, it's just, I want him to know I'm thinking about him, and I know he does. You know,
and that's the thing, you know, I wanted to do that out of respect of the friendships that Jaxson formed, because I don't know if you realise, and, you know, a lot of the people that I've connected with through Jaxson, and a lot of you are overseas, I don't know if you realise how much of an impact you actually had on Jackson's life. It was really important to him to be seen and to be heard. And I think through all of you and that community that you all created together in that mental health space really helped him to be, well, to feel seen and heard. And so, you know, you had an amazing impact on his life, as did he on yours. So I think that's something very special.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He spoke about you all the time. So, yeah, it was important to him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Excuse me, guys, while I collect myself here. You know, I knew that he cared. I knew that he liked me. I knew he liked my show, but I had no idea of the impact. I mean, he would come in, you know, my messages and just periodically, hey man, you know, I'm still keen to do your podcast. You want to do it? I just love you, man. I love your content, but you never know the impact you're making on people. And I mean, he surely impacted my life. I cared a whole lot about that guy. And of course I still do, but damn, thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for sharing
I think,
that.
Shawn, that your whole space that you're working within, you know, you probably don't realise how big an impact that you have on so many people's lives. And Jaxson was the same. Like, I know for a fact by the amount of messages that I got after he passed, just how much impact he had on so many people's lives. And at the end of the day, you know, when we are in this current life that we are in now, the most important thing you want to do when you leave this world is to have left an impact in a good way and to have done something good. It's not about attaining good things or getting cars or houses or money. To me, it's about the impact that you leave on everybody else in this world when you're no longer here. And if you've left a good impact, then you've done something pretty amazing. And I know Jaxson definitely did that, and you guys are doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's, you know, as I get older and I come across people like you and Jaxson, you start to see there is a subset of people that are focused on the right things. And I know this for a fact that social media is fucking loaded with a bunch of bullshit, and you have to sift through it to get to the people like Jaxon Tippet, right? Like, that understand life, that have been through some dark times, because Jaxson, you know, he went through some shit. And he came out and it's like, this is what matters now. My family, being kind. And one of the things I always remember him saying, like, and I love that his business partner or whoever is still keeping his page alive. I mean, because like we still get these messages from Jaxson every single day, right? Takes zero to be kind, takes nothing to be kind and to smile. And that's what he was about.
100%. Logan, his good friend and business partner, is doing that for him. We spoke about it at length, about whether or not they would continue it. And I just thought, and I said to him, I think it's a tribute to Jaxson. It's to honour Jaxson. He wouldn't want to stop putting the good things out into the world that he was trying to put out there. All of the things that Logan's posting are actual quotes from Jaxson, things Jaxson says. So why not try and continue his legacy and try and keep doing the great work that he was already doing in the world? Jaxson had, as you said, a past. He went through a lot of struggles. And I think a lot of Jackson's struggles were trying to find and believe in himself and to understand that he was enough exactly the way he was. I think he went through a very big period of time where he felt like he was comparing himself to others all the time and he wasn't ever in a good enough space or good enough. And I think it took him a long time to start to learn that who he was, exactly as he was enough, and that he had stuff that he could say. He had so much that he could help other people, especially people going through struggles, and everyone does. Like, we all go through them at some stage in our life. And I suppose for Jaxson, it was the learning the lesson, and I think he did that amazingly. And I think that he came through not only shining himself, but he also wanted to use what he learnt to actually help others going through struggle. So I love that about him. Love that.
Me too, because, you know, all too often we see people, right, that are putting out messages like, you're enough, you know, you're loved the way you are, and, you know, stop comparing yourself. And we hear that a lot, but, you know, the most effective teachers are the ones that struggle with it themselves. And, you know, that was the one thing with Jaxson, like you mentioned, like mental health, like he had dark days, and now his main mission was to bring light to that subject for other people. And what he never knew, because, you know, we didn't hop on a podcast. I'm gonna tell you what happened though. It was hilarious. It was frustrating as all get out, but looking back at it, it's funny. But, you know, when Jaxson came around for me, I was at the very beginning stages of what I'm doing now, right? So, you know, imagine, you know, I'm in the den in my house, you know, it doesn't look like anything. I think it looks great, but going back at it, I'm like, dang, I can't believe people already paid attention to me, right? Because it just didn't look, it wasn't very aesthetically pleasing, but, you know, he accepted me for me at that time. And I needed that. I needed that external validation from somebody I respected and cared about, because I didn't know what was going on with my own platform. And he was there. He was there to shine that light. And it meant the world to me, man. It really did.
You know, what you're saying is right. Like, we all like a little bit of validation, and that is a good thing, as long as you understand that validation needs to come from authentic people, authentic places. And I think that's the difference. So you obviously could see that Jaxson's validation was authentic. He wasn't blowing wind or just saying it for the sake of saying it. So I think, you know, we talk about social media and we talk about, you know, a validation. I think you've got to be very careful who you associate yourself with in that way. You know, make sure that the people that you're associating with or watching on social media are actually authentic. You know, and I understand that you're not going to show necessarily yourself sitting in the bathroom floor crying because you've had a terrible day.
Right,
but as long
right.
as you're authentically putting that out there that you do have terrible days, it's
Yep.
normal and it's okay. You just don't want to be following people that are just showing, parts of their lives where they're done up perfect and everything's perfect all the time, because then you start to get caught in that trap. And I think perhaps early on Jaxson was caught in that trap of, everybody looking perfect and being perfect. And I think, understanding that there's a lot of authentic people out there that genuinely are doing the right thing, trying to put good out there, that made a big difference to him.
I think it's everything, right? Because I've actually been approached, very recently, like, hey, are you good? Like, I just want to make sure because everything looks great, but are you okay? And here's the thing. It's like, I'm not going to put every struggle out there, but I do talk about it on my platform of like, hey, listen, this is where I'm at right now. I'm struggling in this. I don't want people who pay attention consistently to think that my life is perfect, because it is not. I'm, husband, father of 3 young children, an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. We're running around, from extracurricular to extracurricular. Sometimes I feel like, every meal I make, my 5-year-old's pissed off at, unless it's pizza or burgers. It's just like, hey, listen, we're in the shit, right? It happens. But, I just, for me, I'm not going to, because I also think that posting a video of you crying is also inauthentic, right? Because that should be a private moment, in my humble opinion. It's like, you're doing this for clicks, man. That's the only reason why you're on camera crying right now, like doing a reel, right? Like, now if it's something like, a passing of a child or a parent, like, I get that. Like, I don't mean that. I mean, like, I'm having a bad day. Like, dude, buck up, buttercup. We're all having bad days, but still handle your business.
Yeah, I think perhaps, that's where the authenticity comes in. Like, and I think people can see straight through that immediately anyway. And, I think, like you say, it's important to talk about bad days, but not, also people don't want to go on social media and listen to your bad day every day as well. So
Exactly.
I think the idea is that, yes, they happen, but you always know something better's coming. Just get through that day. At the end of the day, the sun rises again, to tomorrow's a new day. Anything's possible, and it's, there's always something better coming.
That's another thing that he was really big on, is anything is possible. You can do anything. And it's true. Like, I watched him do it. You watched him do it.
Yeah.
But he poured that shit into everyone that he cared about. Like, I also believe Jaxson was also very choosy on who he let in. Like, he wanted to help the world, but I think he was very choosy of who he let into his circle as well, because, he wanted to make sure that he kept that ship airtight.
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons Jaxson learned, through going through his struggles to where he ended up in such a good place, that was one of the biggest lessons that he learned, that, show me your circle, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You surround yourself with the wrong people, you're getting the wrong influence, you're going to end up with a very different future. And I think that he went and changed that circle. He kept that circle small, like you said. He knew that the people that were in that circle were authentic to him, that wanted the best for him. And, once he changed that circle and had those people around him that he knew would be there for him, he talked all the time about, I'd pick up the phone, I'd call my friend, or I'd speak to this person. And even if I was having a bad day, it would change everything about it. So I think that was one of his best lessons that he actually learned. And I loved that he changed his circle.
He's such a good dude.
Oh.
It's crazy to me, because when that news came out, I woke up in the morning, to go to the gym. And I opened up the social app, right? I opened up Instagram, and then I saw that post. I'm like, what kind of satire, sick and twisted page is this? And I was like, that's Jaxson's page. It's like, this isn't, maybe he's talking about the old him. Maybe this is just, he's reborn, he's saying, hey, it's going to be a new year. Here I come. And I looked at the comments, and I just dropped my phone. I was like, this can't be real. And that's when you're the first person I contacted. And you were in bed with your grandkids. Like, I'm like, Sharon, please tell me this isn't real. Is this a freaking joke? Like, cause I'm like shattered right now. Please tell me this is a sick joke. How did you find out?
Shawn, that was, I think, all of our initial thoughts. I had actually just gotten out of hospital myself, and I'd just gotten home, and my son was here, and my other son sent a message to us, and we were like, I said, no, that can't be true. And he'd seen it on his page first, and I was just in shock. Like, I didn't know what to say, what to think. Like, everything just went kind of still. And my first thought was to send Jaxson a message. So I text him a message, hey, Jaxson, are you okay? Like, is everything all right? Thinking that his page had been hacked, or I think all of us felt, it couldn't be true. And I think by the time I ended up chatting with you while I was in bed with the grandchildren, I'd contacted Cherie, and obviously once I'd spoken to his mum, I understood that it was the horrible truth. And it was devastating, I think, for all of us, for everybody, but most importantly for his beautiful family, which is, imagine if we're feeling so shocked, imagine the shock they getting that call from another country and having to let that sink in and understand it. So horrible.
It was horrible wild. Time. It certainly wild, right? Like, I don't think I believed it. Like, truly, like, accepted it until I was watching the stream of his service. It's like, dude,
to be honest with you, I feel like I didn't even accept it myself perhaps until that day. It's almost like you keep going through, and I think then, that it finally hits you because you see all of his friends and family, you talk to everybody, and you start to realise that, and I think for me it was walking into the service and seeing his beautiful photo up there. And just looking at it and thinking, how is this possible? Like, how can he be gone? Like, that beautiful big smile with those twinkly bright eyes full of life. How can he no longer be here? And, it is a very hard thing, I think, for anybody to accept death. But, especially when there's someone so young, so vibrant. He's just celebrated his 30th birthday. Like, he was looking forward I was speaking to him a week before, and he was so excited about coming back to the Gold Coast after his trip. And, he had so many plans and so much to do. And, it is a very, very sad thing to happen to somebody so short. But all I believe is that God has a different plan for him. He knows he's going to be able to make an impact still. And I think that there must be something special there for Jaxson, for him to have been taken so young.
No, absolutely. And we never know the full picture, right? We'll see him again one day. No offense, buddy. Hopefully not too soon, but can't wait to see you. But, it's wild because there was so many people in our circle on that, even just on that thread, on that post. Oh my God, I just talked to him. Oh my God, I just talked to him. And for me, I had talked to him the weekend prior. I had talked to him. He sent me a DM. He's like, hey, I'm keen to do the show. I'm like, hey, dude, absolutely. Can you come? Do you want to come to the States? He goes, absolutely. Something like, yes, or whatever it was. Not verbatim, but, so I'm like super jacked up. I'm like, dude, this might happen in 2025. I might get to see my boy in person, sit here next to me in this studio here. And then 4 or 5 days later, it's not possible.
You know, I really want to honor his beautiful family. They obviously are struggling very much.
Yeah.
You know, as a mum, I can't think of anything in the world that could possibly be worse than losing one of your children. And, you know, he was also a fabulous brother. He was a fabulous brother-in-law. He was uncle to that gorgeous little Rocky who was the light of his life. He sent me videos and photos of him. Like, he just, you know, his beautiful dad, like, for them all is just, it's such a difficult time. So for us to be able to make this tribute to him, I think, you know, it helps them to know that people still talk about him. You know, I think one of the hardest things when someone passes is I think early on everyone gets around you, and especially, you know, prior to funerals, and then often it sort of starts to peter off, and then it's not that people forget, but people just don't know how to approach it or how often to approach it. So I think it's always really important. I know I've lost a sister. It's important to me. I talk about her all the time when I'm around her family, her kids, her grandkids. Like, to me, it's one of those things that you must talk about as often as you can to keep them there. Like, of course they're there, they're watching over you, they're in your heart, but to keep their whole memory alive, talking about them, as hard as it is initially, it's so important to talk about them continually so that they're always brought back into your life and your world as your world is growing and changing.
That's a very good point. You know, it's the subject of, you know, everyone's there when it happens, right? There's people around, people fly in, people travel for the services. And then after a couple of weeks, the family is there by themselves and they're dealing with this. Everybody else kind of goes on with their own lives. Not that they forget about Jaxson or what the family needs, but people live on. And it is hard to balance how often do I stay in contact? Like, you know, because you don't want to intrude. And maybe, I mean, sometimes I think like, hey, maybe I don't want them. Maybe I trigger memories, you know, and it puts them in a sad state. For instance, one of my baseball players, July 7 will be 2 years that he passed away suddenly, and it broke us. It still breaks me. He was one of the closest baseball players I've ever had to me. He was just my guy, and very close with his dad, close with his mom. And, you know, I had lunch with the dad literally right after the services and everything. And we still stay in contact, but it's like sometimes I'll go like a couple months. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an asshole. Like I need to text JJ, right? And check on him, and, you know, and text Tracy and check on her. Right. And, you know, I told them I want to do a tribute on him one day. Right. I want to do a big show around Evan Ames, because he was such a special human being. And if you were one of his people, you were one of his people. He's a lot like Jaxson. They both could smell bullshit a mile away. Yeah. And if they did, they're out. But if they knew you were real and about it, they were with you, you know?
And I think that's probably the hardest thing for people when, you know, they're dealing with the family after the loss and friends after the loss. I think often they just are really unsure what to say. And I always say, if you're not sure, just send them a message and say, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're okay today. Anything. Just let them know that you haven't forgotten, you're thinking of them. And, you know, every now and then, because you know yourself, they pop into your mind all the time. You know, I still think about that on a daily basis at the moment. And I know I do this with his family. So I just think if you're unsure, just send them a message. I'm thinking of you today.
I mean, I think it's a great lesson for all you listening. And I've experienced this in your life with someone you love, whether it's a family member or a friend. The family of that individual still does want to hear from you, right? So make it a point just to touch base with them, because that does keep the memory alive that their loved one provided such an amazing impact on the world and specifically your life. That's a great lesson. That's a great lesson.
It is, Shawn, because it means so much more to them than what we realise, that just to know that people have you in their thoughts, they haven't forgotten, they're still there for you. It's just a reminder of all those things without you having to go into a big in-depth conversation. And if they are having a good day, they can read it and smile. And if they aren't, well, then it's a nice reminder that you're there for them.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite or funniest memory about Jaxon Tippet?
Now you've got me. I'm going to say my favourite memory of him is the fact that we sat and did a podcast that we thought we were going to do, 40 minutes. And I think it ended up becoming, I don't know how much longer than that. But after we finished, Jaxson sat there and said to me, honestly, I feel like we just got so much more to talk about. And I think we spoke for another hour and a half or something after that. Like, we just had so much to talk about. I think that, and the fact that I just love the fact that he was such a big person on picking up the phone. And I'm not a, on the phone kind of person. I like to do the text messages But Jaxson, I'd message him, and next thing my phone would be ringing, I'd be like, oh, that's Jaxson, and then next minute you're on. But I love that he was really big on that kind of communication, because that's really different in our world today. Nobody wants to be actually physically talking. And if he wasn't doing that, he would send you a big long voicemail.
Yes, he would send the voice notes. He sure would. So I guess my funniest memory of Jaxson is, and I alluded to it at the beginning of the show. At the time, it was frustrating because, but he's listening. He's watching down. He's laughing right now. So we finally scheduled a time to be on the show, right? And it had me getting up like at 4 a.m. to record, like 4 a.m., dude. I'm sitting there like, hope my kids don't wake up. Hope my wife doesn't wake up. This could be bad, right? This could be really bad for me and underneath my roof right now. I'm recording a show at this specific time. And I was like, but you know what? To have Jaxon Tippet on, like, fuck it. Let's do it. Like, I'm all in, right? And I'm sitting there, got Riverside wide open, ready to rock and roll, ready to see his Jaxon Tippet is in the lobby. Nothing. 10 minutes later, nothing. And I'm sitting here. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll pop on a little bit. I look at my watch. I'm like, dude, the show was supposed to start 20 minutes ago. Right. And I'm just sitting there like an asshole. And I'm like, yeah, man, whatever, dude. I'm just thinking like the worst, right? Like, he doesn't respect my time, yada, 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 right? All these different things, because he was so intent on being on. He just no-showed me. He no-showed me. I'm like, I can't believe this. Can't believe this guy. Like, you've been on me for weeks about this, man. And I was so mad, and obviously it's a lot of my own bullshit, right? Like, coming up, that it wasn't about him. It was how I felt about myself at the time. And he just, signified somebody else who was just not valuing me because I didn't feel my value at the time. Right. So not once did I think, well, maybe something's wrong. So sitting there, and I finally just like, I log off. I'm like, and by the way, there's moments in this 20, 30 minutes that I was messaging him, hey bro, what's up, man? Hey, like, are you coming? Like, what's the deal? Like, I'm sitting here, and finally I get off and I'm like, hey man, I hope that everything's okay. But I'm done. Like, I can't sit here anymore. He finally messages me back, mate, I'm so sorry. I was in a car accident. Remember when he got in that car accident like a year or two ago, or however long it was? That was the day. That was the day he was supposed to come on my show And I felt like the biggest jackass because here I am thinking the worst about who I am or the fact that he just no-showed me. I was like, dude, this guy's going through life. He had a car accident. So that was one of my funniest memories because that's when I learned a lot about Jaxson. That's when I learned like, hey dude, be more curious. And then we could never get it worked out for him to come on. But
and what a great lesson is that in that, and one of the things Jaxson spoke about a lot is, be kind or try and think, positive because you actually have no idea what somebody else is going through. So again, like you said, in your moment of frustration, and 9 times out of 10, you would be right that someone could do that to you.
Right.
But it's just what great proof that, like this poor kid's had a car accident. He couldn't have had a better excuse for a no-show. Yeah. You just don't know what's happening in other people's lives every day. So you just got to be so careful about what you say. It can make a big, big impact on their day if they're not having a good one.
Yeah, man, that's so true because, afterwards, like I said, I felt like a complete tool. I was like, dude, this isn't like, I can't believe you thought this. But I mean, that was a funny moment looking back at it. Right. And as I was processing through the news, I started laughing about it. I was like, dude, and I started talking to him. I was like, man, remember when you stood me up, bro? I was like, you got in that car accident? I was like, all right, man. All right. But it just, yeah, it was
going to great lengths to get out of it for you, wasn't he?
I know. Seriously, you didn't have to get in a car accident, bro. You could have just said, hey, I'm not feeling it. Oh, man. That's a regret of mine, though, right? Because I wish the thing that I regret in our friendship is that I didn't try harder to get him back on. But there was, and it wasn't anything intentional. It was just, I started going in a different direction, right? As far as in person and things like that. And I wanted to keep the integrity of the show, but for, certain exceptions, I'll do a virtual show now, obviously, because here we are. I mean, you're in Australia.
Thankfully.
You're in the future. You're in the future.
You should be kind to yourself about that because, like the whole thing is that it's not a reflection on your relationship with him. What sort of relationship you had with him. Being on a podcast together won't change the relationship you had. What you had was real. It was authentic. It was honest. And the fact that it was private is possibly even more important.
Yeah.
You don't have to have done a show with him to prove to the world that you had a fabulous relationship with him and how important he was to you. So, be kind about that. Maybe it wasn't meant to be so that we could do this beautiful tribute to him now.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy though? It's like, and again, it's an honor, right? I'm no one to dismiss the grand plans of the big guy upstairs, right? It's at the time you don't know that. Then you look back and we're here and we're doing this for him. And it's just, I do my best not to beat myself up over that. I do, because you said something there, and I want the audience to really, I want to go back to it because I want the audience to really take it in. You said, the relationship being private and that's a real friendship, right? And where people get screwed up, like me and you have a real friendship. Like a real private friendship, like a real one, like and I'm stressing this, and I stress this a lot to when I'm interviewing someone, and to the audience, like a lot of these people that I've never met in person, I trust them more than the people in my life.
Exactly, and again, I think so many of us and so many people out there, we can see through in authenticity straight away, and because of that we can also see and relate to authentic people very quickly.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always had an instinct when I meet people. I can be, okay, they're a nice person, but they're not for me. And then there's other people that you connect with. And even if it's on the side of the world, like yourself and I, we still have had some of the most fantastic conversations.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
But I can tell that you're a very authentic, genuine person. So, it doesn't have to be, your best friend that you go for coffee dates with every day. Like that's not what friendship is based on, not for me.
No, I think, and it's great. Like I same back to you, like all the stuff, right? The authenticity, being genuine. I think friendship, excuse me, friendship is not the coffee appointment, or the coffee date. It's not the lunch date. It's not the going out to the clubs. It is an energy. It is an energy thing, in my opinion.
It absolutely is. And I think that, because of that energy exchange, as soon as you meet somebody, you tend to know very quickly if they're going to be your person or one of your people. And I think that's great, because then you can still have some kind of friendship based around that. So, there'll be ones that will be fringe friends that you will connect with and enjoy your time with them when that happens. But there'll be other ones that no matter what happens, whether it's public or private, and for me, often those friendships tend to be more private.
Yeah.
It's because that they are genuinely your person. They want good for you. They want to see you do well. There's no jealousy. There's no outside influence. It's just you and them, and they want the best for you and you want the best for them. And you can see and feel that so easily, I think, when you meet people.
Love it. I love it. So true. As we land the plane here, my dear, so you can get your day started and I can end my day, get some dinner in me, go see the family, do bath time, all that fun stuff. I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite quote of Jaxson's?
Look, I think Jaxson and I both agreed that our favourite quote was that comparison is the thief of joy.
Love it.
You will miss out on a lot in life, a lot of connections, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of happiness, a lot of love, if you get caught up comparing yourself or your situation with anything or anyone else. You've got to just learn that who you are is enough, where you are is enough. Enjoy the ride. It is a ride. It's a really long journey full of lessons.
Sure is.
And once you understand that any sort of comparison in your life will steal your joy, I think, understanding just to love where you are, what's happening in your life. Obviously, love your family, the most important thing in your life. And I think when you start to learn to really love your family, put all your work and your effort into those things that are by far the most important to you, the ones that are actually going to fill your cup for you, then I think that you will become a much happier person, a much more contented person in your life. And I think that's one thing Jaxson definitely learned in his journey.
That's a mic drop right there. That's amazing. It's an amazing lesson. And that's what he was about, and I think that's what everybody, should really work on, right? Because if you stay in your lane and you just focus on you and be your biggest cheerleader, you're going to accomplish much more than looking at what you don't have that somebody else does have. That creates doubt, that destroys your discipline. It's depressing, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. That is one of my favorite ones as well. Okay. The one thing that you mentioned at the funeral was, and this is something that I think the world needs to hear right now. There's one very simple one. Never leave a rude comment. Never leave a rude
yes,
comment.
we definitely decided that. I've actually got it here. We said never, ever write or leave an unkind message on social media. It was Jackson's biggest wish. He Never understood it. We both agreed it was something we had just no understanding of, because obviously when you're genuinely a kind person, you don't understand why someone would leave an unkind message. And we always suggested that you take a breath, you just stop when you feel like you want to write something, and then you either make the decision to scroll on or unfollow them if it's bothering you that much, or you simply just say to yourself, okay, I think I'm having a really bad day. I'm just not feeling positive. I'm going to say something that I'm probably going to regret later on. There's no need for it. Just don't do it. Just scroll on, unfollow, or just at the very least, just stop and think before you do it. Because, you know, leaving that unkind message, as we said before, what if by the time you leave that unkind message on that person's social media, they're having the worst day of their life, and then they read that message?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think anyone does it on purpose. I don't think anyone would genuinely want to ruin someone's day and make them feel horrible about themselves. I just think they don't stop and think about that when they think, oh, this wanker or whatever, and you know, start typing.
This wanker.
Is that an Aussie thing? I don't know, probably.
What's that? I don't even know what it means.
Oh, well,
is it like,
is that still Aussie?
Fucker?
What is it?
Fucker?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. Call someone a fucker. Okay. I like it. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
And you know what? Everyone's not going to like you, and that's okay.
No.
Like, it's actually fine to look at someone's social media and think, wow, what a wanker. Like, that's okay. That's your opinion.
I do it. Sometimes I look at mine. I go, dude, what a fucking wanker, man.
Yeah, I look at things sometimes and think, well, that's definitely not for me, and I just scroll past it. But there's just no need to leave a comment. There's just not. Like, we could change so much in this world if we just stopped doing that. Like, if it's going to be negative, effect. Don't do it.
That's the ripple effect, right? Like,
it is.
Once that back up, absolutely is. Then they do it to somebody else, and that person does it to somebody else, right? Because it was done to them, and that's the way to get the energy out. But if you don't do it, then you can minimize that ripple effect. So, now listen, before we close it out, please tell the audience where they can find you. We didn't really highlight anything you do. We'll save that for when you come to Florida, because I know you're going to come. I'm putting that out there in the universe. Okay. You're going to come here. We're going to talk about your amazing life and your amazing company and what you do for people's health and wellness. I still want to try it, by the way.
I am going to send you some, Shawn.
I know. It just probably will take 7 years to get it here. That's all. Because it's so far away. But no, but tell people where they can find you, please.
So you can find me on, it's just literally at Sharon Orval, Orval, on Instagram. I also have my business account, which is at Be Happy, BEEHAPPI by Shaz. And yeah, I welcome everybody. I try and get back to everybody. Like, to me, if someone, takes the time out to message you or contact you, I think that it's really important to take that time. And I know Jaxson was big on this. He always did it. It doesn't take much of your day. Well, actually collectively for us, it does by the time you get back to them all. And sometimes we get behind, but I always try and get back to people. Like, I do think it's important. Like we said before, Jaxson's biggest thing, everybody likes to feel seen and feel heard. I think if someone's reaching out, then they possibly, what they need the most is to feel seen and heard that day. So
absolutely. I'm all about that. I'm with you. As long as they don't cross the boundary, and as long as they're not asking me for money or, trying to sell me something I don't need or insulting what I'm currently doing, I always respond. I think that is definitely, I think you have to protect your space too, right? But
you have to protect your space.
But if someone messages you like, hey, I love what you're doing, like, message them back. They don't be an a-hole. right? Don't do it. Like they are a person. You're a person too. Just because a computer screen and the follower count shows that you're, technically important doesn't mean shit.
Exactly. And
doesn't mean shit.
Most importantly, stay in your lane. Like, don't ask if you have OnlyFans, don't ask to send photos, don't, say all the things you're going to get deleted.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask Sharon if she has OnlyFans. Okay? if she did, it would be in her link in her bio. All right. Let's be come on, guys. Come on. What part of putting Christmas decorations up with her grandkids would make you think she has an OnlyFans?
Exactly. Like, do you even watch my stories? Nothing about that. Exactly.
What the hell? There's no thirst traps here. Oh, good Lord. Exactly. But thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. And I had a great time. Can't wait to do it in person. And for the audience watching and listening, I hope you had an amazing time with our tribute to Jaxon Tippet. I know it was a little bit different of a show, and his page is still active. His link will be his Instagram link will be in the show notes, but it's I am Jaxon Tippet. They're still putting out amazing content for his page, his direct quotes and things that he did. So you could still go and get to know him, even though he's not physically with us. So guys, again, thank you for listening. If you don't already follow the show, please hit subscribe, share this show with someone you love. Until next time, stay determined.
Shawn French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined.